All right. I hope everyone on the call is okay with that. We do have the recording on. Great. All right. Maybe I will just kick it off. Just say a little bit about Town Team Movement and what we're doing. Then I'll hand over to Lucinda and Julian to run the rest of the workshop. Is that okay?
Shall I just unpack it and put it here?
Sorry, Dawn. Do you mind just putting your mute on? Hey, Dawn. How you doing?
Good. Sorry, I'll just make that happen. I'm doing it via my phone, so it's a little bit tricky for me. Can you mute me from your end?
Oh, possibly. I think I can actually.
Yeah, I think you can,
I'll rudely
but
mute
not.
you then.
I'm with my granddaughter, so I'm trying to entertain her and watch this.
Well done.
All right, I've got you on mute now, so you're all good.
Is she interested in urban design and community engagement?
Hope so.
Yeah, probably pretty good at holding a camera, holding a phone, I imagine.
Better than most of us. All right, I'll get started now. So thanks heaps to everyone for coming along. Special shout outs to Julian and Lucinda from 100 to 0 for offering to host this great workshop on how we can do a better job of digital storytelling. A little bit about us. So my name's David Snyder. I'm from Town Team Movement. We call ourselves a movement of positive doers. So we enable and empower local leaders to create great places and better neighborhoods. I'm also wearing a few hats from Town Team Movement. We've also got our Streets Alive program, and I can see already a lot of the participants on this call. And that's a community-led program aimed at shifting attitudes and behaviors towards road safety and creating safer speeds, slower streets, and more connected and inclusive environments. And I'm also wearing a third hat at Town Team Movement, representing our Quick Wins weekend, which is coming up this weekend. Thank you. From the 24th to the 26th of October. And it's really about just getting out there, doing something small, simple, doesn't cost a lot of money, and just showing your love for the place. And I think this webinar is a great opportunity to showcase the great projects that everyone's doing in their communities. So on that note, I'll hand over to Lucinda and Julian to run this great workshop. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. Can you see that all right? Amazing. Thanks so much for having us. Town Teams is like totally one of my favorite things ever. I've known Dean and David for, I don't know, it might be a decade if I'm showing my age there, but certainly watched the journey and really excited by the work you're doing. I'm dialing in from Melbourne today, so I wanted to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation of the land that I'm dialing in from. I'm sure it's different from for you guys all around. If you've got the chat open, I don't know if you were happy to use the chat today, and you know what country you're on, you might want to put that in the chat just as sort of a remote acknowledgement of the different places. That we share because we're going to be talking a lot about place today. So this is a workshop about telling great stories about your neighborhood. And we'll talk a little bit about where this project has come about. It's speaking of different hats. It's neither Julian nor mine's primary hat, but we ties together different threads of interest and action, and I think has a lot of shared interests with the work that you're doing, but really looking at how we can use digital storytelling as a mechanism to create impact and create change. But before we kick that off, would be interested to know a little bit about you. In terms of digital storytelling, like what do you like to watch online? Are there particular YouTube channels that you subscribe to, or Netflix series that you watch, or um, yeah, I mean, could be anything really. But if there's something that you're particularly interested in watching online at the moment, then would love to hear about that. You can just chuck it in the chat. It's probably easier than anything else, or feel free to yell it out if you're not wrangling grandchildren at the same time. Um, yeah, what are you guys watching or like to watch online? Oh, craft videos, amazing. I like that too. Yeah. Julian, are you watching anything super nerdy at the moment? You've often got some pretty interesting things going on.
Yeah, I binge politics quite a bit from time to time, and then I get away from that and watch stupid things. My nerdy online hobbies are some of the tech stuff I'm interested in. So I always nerd out about just niche stuff. New backpacks. Yeah, sign me up for the best reviews ever. Um, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I have a 13-year-old and I am discovering the world of watching speedrun of video games, which I have really tried to get my head around. We sometimes go and watch them live as well as watch them on YouTube. But the idea of watching someone else play a video game was totally foreign to me and felt like totally weird. But actually, when I think about it, it's not really any different from like watching other people play sport. Like, I'm still not playing. There's a lot of strategy involved, and so yeah, Hollow Knight and Silksong are the current ones that we're watching. Anyone made videos before? Of any kind? Yep. Philippa, what kind of videos have you made? I just see you nodding there.
Yeah, so well, I'm a gamer, so I have done some Twitch stuff, but
Amazing.
I am I'm in the crafting YouTube world. I only have 200 followers, but I do flat lay crafting. So for those who don't know, we do basically might be a tutorial or it might be a flick through of what you've made or what's called craft with me's, which might be hour or 2 hour long videos where you talk while you're doing it and that you get
Love
followers,
it.
but then you like sell your stuff on Etsy. So you've got to build up a community of people watching you so then they can buy the stuff. I've got like 10,000 on Etsy and 3 of them are my mum. So like it's my side hustle for when I retire. But like some of the people I follow have like 45,000 followers and they've
Yeah.
got 400,000 sales on Etsy. So like that's what I'm aiming for. I've got a long way to go.
Amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love all of that. Yeah, it's such
But
a big
all you need is
world,
a
right?
phone and a stand. And I found that like the Halo ring that I got with my whatever it's called kit, influencer kit, is really good for crafting. So I've just got it set on my crafting table permanently now because it's great light for when you're making stuff. I make junk journals and handmade cards.
I was going to ask next, what do you craft?
Anything,
Yep.
paper. I'm an
Yep.
addict.
Love it. Anyone else made videos of any kind? Doesn't have to necessarily be like YouTube videos, but other like taking personal videos.
Yes. Am I coming through?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. What sort of videos do you like making?
Run a YouTube channel, creating acts of kindness, and actually collaborating with Town Team Movement this weekend to create a kind of like a collage or a compilation video of all the people creating their own little quick wins. So yeah, there's a few people in this group already that I think I've spoken to, and they'll be sending me some video from the weekend, and we'll be putting it together for a little 90-second reel.
Amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm just going to throw over to Julian to introduce himself.
So great to be here. I am a city nerd, so what you folks are working on is very much up my alley. I come to this world from a design and engineering perspective, and these days I lecture, I teach media here in Melbourne, and yeah, I've become a YouTuber, I've become a TikToker. So for me, this was a project that kicked off in the pandemic, as many hobbies did, and it's really kind of taken over a bit of my life. I've worked for the ABC making content, had a recent video going up on ABC Science YouTube, talking about the center of cities and how that's defined. So this is kind of what I do and what I'm really interested in. And I love the idea of a quick wins weekend. for a few reasons. One, if there's a space, can I say, that like is challenging and complex, it's how do we design our cities. But God, it's one where we can get some wins. Like, because wins can be very small. It can be the installation of a couple new bike hoops out front, out the side of a gym, through to big wins like we've kind of had here in Victoria, where now 30 kilometers per hour can be put anywhere, where it used to be something that had to be niche and a trial. So kind of big changes as well. So I make content. If you want to follow me, as we say in the biz, like and subscribe. Julian O'Shea is my handle, and I make videos on Instagram and TikTok. They're often short form about design and cities. And on YouTube, they're a bit longer, like five to 10 minutes. And they fit in the category of explainers. So I've become a bit known as the Melbourne guy, because I make a lot of videos about Melbourne. So much so that I think last year I was standing in Cambodia looking over the Angkor temples. It's sunrise, it's dawn, it's beautiful. I'm kind of just vibing out on these hundreds of years old building, and someone just yells, "Melbourne guy!" So yeah, it follows me. But my series started, and it was called Unknown Melbourne. And people ask, like, "Oh, do you love the city that much?" And like, yes, I do. But part of it was because I started this project when I was only legally allowed 5 kilometers from my house. So that was very much a factor in why it was such a local bit of content. But if there's one thing I do well, and I'm allowed to blow my own horn, even though it's not a very Australian thing to do, I'd say the one thing I'm good at, it's that I make things interesting for people that didn't know they were interested in them. That would be kind of the strength of my content. Talking about escalator design or intersections or traffic signage. So there's some of the things I'd love to share with you folks today. This doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be scary, and it can be fun. So relax.
Amazing. Thanks, Julian. We're going to watch a bunch of Julian's videos today. I come from the placemaking world. I come from urban design background, although I spent the last decade or so working in tech, in big data, and now in financial technology, looking at different ways to solve city problems from a tech angle. But throughout all of those has been storytelling. And I think these days, more than anything else, I would say what I do is storytelling. It's not always online. So I come at this project from perhaps some other angles of storytelling. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm writing a book about housing, and I do part of that online or Substack at another sort of short form format, but I'm looking at different ways of digital storytelling that isn't necessarily always video. But certainly in my experience from placemaking days, storytelling has been central to all of it. And I'm sure you know this. This is what you're living and breathing. But, I read a recent article that I think really stood out to me that said only 3% of people will change their mind when they read data or facts about a topic. But many, many more will change their mind when they hear stories about it. So I think when it comes to placemaking, you could have really fantastic data about the number of people attended, and I'm a huge data nerd and always think that we should count all of the things that we can count. But equally, the social proof that you get from people's experience and the stories that you tell about it can be equally powerful when it comes to scaling impact and talking about policy change and social change and exchanging lessons like you do with all the different town team groups. So I think this is just another medium that we're going to learn about today. Why the 100 to Zero project? Just really briefly, this is an initiative that is funded by the federal government through their National Road Safety Grants program, and really looking at the amount of money that is currently spent on road safety campaigns and the audience of that. So if you see, and this is one that I love, that less than 8% of ABC viewers are under 40. Which you might then say that the ABC, if you sort of scale that out without a lot of innovation, is perhaps like a dying media. But there's, 8.5 million TikTok users in Australia alone, greater than that now. That statistic's a little bit old. That's like 1 in 2 people are a TikTok user. So if we're thinking about how do we transform content for where the audience is, it's really about using a lot of these mediums and a lot of these platforms. And from a road safety perspective, it's really about trying to communicate messages about road safety to a totally different audience. But being city nerds, Julian and I have really taken very much a place-focused lens. So it's much less about, say, driver behavior, although there's a part of that, and more about how do we make cities that are great for everyone. So this webinar is, I guess, sharing some lessons from this specific campaign that's been running over the past year. We're going to share some of the videos that have been created and then look at some practical steps and how-tos. So the 100 to 0 comes from 100 seconds or less. So how do we get to net zero, sort of net zero fatalities on the roads through communication that's 100 seconds or less? So all of the stories are really short, not more than 1.5 minutes, and are looking at distribution on TikTok and Instagram. The most successful video from the campaign so far is this one called Why Bull Bars Are BS. And we thought we might start with one of the videos if you can hear my
This
audio.
is an
Can you
outdated
hear
and
that?
dangerous piece of technology. Now, this is a bull bar, also known as a roo bar and a nudge bar. And while they may have had a role in the past, the fact is these days they make cars more dangerous. Now, their general purpose is in case you hit an animal, it won't cause damage to the car. But things have changed in the last 10 years or so. Essentially, cars are deliberately designed to have a crumple zone in the case of a collision. And not only that, these can interfere with things like the deployment of the airbag. Plus, if they're not installed correctly, they can get in the way of the lights and any frontal sensors. Now, not only that, these things are much more dangerous for pedestrians. This is a big, heavy, sharp chunk of metal that's been put on the front of the vehicle. And in fact, what can happen is if you get hit by one, a pedestrian will die at half the speed as a vehicle that doesn't have one of these installed. Now, because of all of that, the European Union has banned the selling of new cars with non-compliant bull bars. And the recommendation here in Australia is this is an outdated piece of technology and shouldn't be installed on your vehicle.
All right. So that's 100 seconds or less for quite a lot of content. Just interested, like what stood out to you about that video in terms of its format or its style or its content? Are there some things about that that stand out to you as to why you might think it was one of the most watched videos of the campaign?
Courtney says catchy title, indeed. A bit of a provocative title as well.
There was a sense of urgency.
Yep. Yeah, some pretty heavy topics in a way. Yeah, we'll talk about and break down some of the key features of that video and a couple of others. While all of the videos of the campaign have some of these similar hallmarks, this one is potentially one of the most watched because it touches on a very sensitive issue. There are some big sort of Truckzilla drivers who are not really happy with videos like this. So it had a lot of dialogue, I guess. It sparked a lot of conversation, a lot of engagement, which probably then drove further viewers about that.
A lot of people didn't like this video in the
No.
shows.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm on team pedestrian though. That's fine.
Yeah. So just today in the time that we've got left, and I know it's late for you guys on the East Coast, and trying to find a time that really suited everyone. We're going to just talk about a couple of different types of content that might be useful in the kind of city space, and then 5 keys to kind of creating really good short videos. And with the view that, you know, maybe with the Quick Wins weekend coming up, you might want to create your own. I think the best videos are the ones that are super raw, authentic, that you're creating yourself. And there's no reason why anyone can't create them these days. So in terms of types of content, here's just a few other city nerds that we follow that are useful for inspiration. The perhaps most common content, and this is what Julian creates a lot of as well, is explainers, picking one specific small area of the city and looking at how you might explain it. City Beautiful is a YouTube channel worth following, and let's just have a quick look at one of
I don't know
these.
if you've heard, but there's a lot of controversy around this new type of bus stop in LA. The idea was to create an alternative to bus shelters that added lighting and shade in areas where traditional bus shelters aren't practical, such as on narrow sidewalks, as well as to make the space safer for women and communities of color as they wait for the bus. Defenders of the LA DOT and the designers of the shelter have said that the design is cheaper than typical bus shelters, can be installed without permits from other city departments, and was funded entirely through grants. But the compliments generally end there. Critics say that the structure isn't positioned correctly to adequately shade the sidewalk at the hottest parts of the day, doesn't actually light up the area, took too much time and money to develop, doesn't provide any place to sit, and doesn't adequately solve any gender or race-related issues. Critics of the LADOT have wondered why they spent so much money and time redesigning bus shelters when they could have spent more time and effort instead just modifying existing regulations and removing constraints to installing regular bus shelters.
So I guess in a lot of the video, and I'm sure a lot of the content that you consume yourself, you can see they've just heroed in on one really specific thing, the design of this bus shelter. And I think a lot of the flavor of Julian's content, if you've seen any of that, is telling you all of these things about a piece of infrastructure that you're really curious about now that someone's telling you about it, but you'd never thought about before. And I think in placemaking in cities, there's so many different great examples of that. Like, why is a curb like that? You know, why is the foot width of the footpath like that? You know, what do we think about street trees in this area? And it's the topics that really resonate with people, and going deep on the nitty-gritty design of one piece of infrastructure is a good place to look. Another example, and not just bikes, creates a lot of great content about this, another great city nerd to follow. But this is a great example if you perhaps don't want to film yourself, if you're not really wanting to talk to camera or set up a tripod, or, there's lots of reasons why we might want to do that. But voiceover is a great way to create this kind of content as well. And we'll just watch some of this one.
Watch this traffic light. When the light goes red for cars, it goes green for bicycles, but it goes green in every direction at the same time. There are dozens of junctions like this one in the Dutch city of Groningen. Urban cycling moves at a human scale at speeds that we evolved to deal with, so people cycling have time to react to one another. And because
we won't watch all of that one, but you get the idea. If you just wanted to actually film what was happening in a place and lay voiceover afterwards, that's a really great way to create content as well. A lot of crafting videos are like that, actually, where you're really watching the action rather than the person. There's also long form content, and we won't show this one, but this is the actual City Nerd at City Nerd, and we did some collaborative workshops with him when he was in Melbourne in March this year. But these are quite long videos, like 22 minutes, 30 minutes, about different city issues, different city reviews. So certainly depending on the channel, if you're wanting to create some longer form content, there's some areas like that as well. So Julian's putting the links in the chat too, if you want to dive a bit deeper into this kind of content. Once you've watched a few of them, your feed will then be full of all of the others. So that's a good way to train your algorithm around nerdy place content. All right, so we're going to dive into these just 5 areas of creating really good short videos. So there's just some really good takeaways from this campaign. One is having a great title and a great topic. And so that's often picking something really specific, but something that's of interest to you. So the videos that we're showing today as examples have all got a similar flavor because they're from this 100 to 0 campaign, but there could be something totally else that you want to create content about, and that's fine too. When you're passionate or interested about a topic, it really shows through. So really genuinely encourage you to follow your interests. But the title really matters. And a lot of the videos people will watch without audio on. And if that title's there, it can really catch. Something that's, Julian teaches on, and it's really interesting to look at in the way that we consume content today, is it's not opt-in, it's opt-out. So, even on Netflix, you're choosing what you want to watch. But if you're, just scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, it's like it's going to present you content until you stop. So it's more that people would stop watching and keep scrolling rather than opting in. And so because of that, things like catchy titles and the first kind of 2-5 seconds really matter. So this is another one from the campaign, and of all of the angles of things that we could have chosen about streets, it's like, why trucks don't beep anymore. Like, it's a question. There's something that's inviting curiosity about the title. So that's something to think about with that niche and that.
Have you noticed that reversing trucks don't make beeping sounds anymore? In fact, they're more likely to sound something like this. Now, the idea that trucks had to make a noise when they back up makes a lot of sense from a safety point of view, and actually goes back to the 1960s. But this new alarm is called a white noise alarm. Now, what white noise is sounds across all of the audible frequencies, so from 400 through to 10,000 hertz. And there are some benefits to this. One of them is that it's easy to work out which direction the sound is coming from and indeed which direction the truck is travelling. Some other benefits are, because it goes across all of the frequencies, it's less likely to get confused and mixed up with.
All right, sorry, I might stop.
Have you noticed that reversing truck?
But yeah, having a really catchy title and a singular topic is really important. The other thing to think about is
I think my
audience
Zoom
are
is good at noise filtration. Didn't make the sound. I think
didn't it?
Yeah.
Watch that one. Watch that link again. It's got some really great sound effects that you picked up, and followed some trucks around during the week, no doubt, to get the footage. The other
Just
thing,
before you jump on, listen,
yeah.
the one thing I'll add on the bit about the hook is that because that's the thing that keeps people watching, the opening second matters, the opening frame matters. And something where we are really well placed is that if you think about the content that exists on Instagram, a lot of it is like person talks to camera, which is fine. But something that's really powerful about what we're doing is that we are in the world, and we are in the world of our viewers. So I get excited when I see Melbourne on a screen. You might get excited when you see Perth on the screen, or the UK, or wherever you are, because it's still very rare. Like if you watch television and try to find a show with Melbourne that's shot in Melbourne, you won't find it. Like there's just so few. So that is a really powerful plus that we just get for free. Like this opening shot of Lucinda right there is like, that is clearly an Australian Melburnian neighborhood, and someone has gone out into the world, which proves there's some effort behind it. So that's something where we're really well placed.
Yeah, so especially with the kinds of projects that you'd be working on with your quick wins, I can imagine there's some incredible kind of like before after shots and color and movement and other things to be out there. It doesn't take a lot of effort. The second thing is audience, and I think a lot of these videos are successful in that they're picking quite a niche topic that has a fairly wide appeal, but also has some thought to who the audience is. So with 100 to 0, obviously that's a really wide topic. Like who's a road user? Like, all of us are road users in some ways. So created different videos that are talking more to drivers or to pedestrians or to cyclists within those groups, and trying to be quite specific in the audience. This is probably things that you might come across already, but sometimes, with community engagement or other activities, but sometimes when you're more specific on the audience, it's more successful than if you're too broad, because if it's too broad, if it's for everyone, then it's also for no one in that sense. So I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that one on audience, Julian.
Yeah, just that something weird about making online video is that the view count is front and center, as is your subscriber count. And I think that's unfair. Like, so think of all your favorite restaurants and bars. When you walk in, they don't say, we've served this many customers. And if they did, of course, they will have served less than McDonald's and KFC and whatever. And no one thinks they're better. So it's the one part of the world where like the metrics are just, I think, too far in your face. And what we've found, Lucinda and I, from our change making work, is that winning the right hearts and minds is more important than more. And just note that. So don't be scared if your video gets 300 or 400 views. That's a lot of people. Like if you're talking to a room of 300 people, that's a lot. So just note that fact and feel okay about it.
Yeah. So within the campaign, this was an example of one that sort of narrowed in on parents and looking at how we might create content within that road safety just for the parents group. So we'll just show the start of this one, Babs.
If you've walked to school in Australia, chances are you'll know your friendly local lollipop person. But why are they called lollipop people, and where does that name come from? Well, the first reference to a crossing supervisor is from the 1920s in the United States, with the rise of the automobile and children needing to get to school safely. But the term lollipop person or man or woman was popularised by a road safety campaign in the 1960s in the UK, and also because the sign they hold looks a lot like a lollipop. Here in Australia,
and I want to say thank you to that crossing supervisor who's actually outside my kids' primary school and gave his consent to be in that video as well. That's another thing that's probably important, that if you are working with people who are going to be in the videos, to get their consent to be filmed if it's up close like that and they're identifiable. And yeah, on audience, it's interesting to the point, Julian's point earlier around, the numbers are quite unfair. You might want to speak to this, Julian, but sometimes the videos get the attention of people that can be really influential, even if it's not the highest numbers.
Yeah, a lot of examples of this. I made a video about the Melbourne water supply system. We've got a unique one, very distinct, rare system where we use protected catchments. So I made a video about that, and I put one very rarely on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, you can see who's viewed your content, and it says this has been watched by people from Melbourne Water, such and such this. So it did a real lap of the people kind of relevant to it. One of my early videos was celebrating a great bike lane on St Kilda Road, and one of the comments is from like the state member saying, "We're so proud of this." So like it might find its audience in relevance more than in numbers. And I just thought this was cute. I got this email just out of the blue in the mail from the Climate Change Safety Transport Division of the City of Melbourne, just saying, "We've been sharing your videos internally, and we give a pixelated thumbs up emoji every week to someone, and you get it this week." And it's just like, there is probably no group that I would rather see my content than that group, the people that make decisions about what the streets look like. And that is perhaps more relevant than any view count. So just note that. And weirdly, you're more likely to find it because they're the people most interested and keen on it.
Absolutely. I think particularly around placemaking, often the change work isn't in the obvious work. It's around the relationships or the policy or the regulation or the insurance or other kind of people behind the scenes who need to hear these stories. So that's a really important one. Just take a minute now, and we won't have too many sort of reflective questions because I know that people will be wanting to get on with their evenings. But just on those first 2 points on topics and audience, just thinking about what's coming up this week. Is it this weekend? You've got the quick wins, yeah. Workshop. Think about what are some of the topics you might like to address. Is there and you don't necessarily have to shout it out, although you can if you want to, but just take a moment to reflect for yourself and think about, like, what are the projects that you're planning to do? Is there a particular angle that you might want to take, a particular audience that you might want to speak to, or a place that you're going to be? That's a topic in and of itself, is like, a particular street corner or street or area. So if I had hold music, I would play that, but just we'll see how long 100 seconds feels when we're silent, because the extroverts will want to keep talking.
All right, I might kick it off then to break the silence. I'm looking at a project from my toddler son, and looking at painting some tiny doors and putting them along the verge down our street. So yeah, I guess my topic would be the tiny door scavenger hunt, and my audience are little grommets, but they're up to my knees.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Are you making the doors yourself?
I haven't got that far yet, but
Yeah,
possibly.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where that'll do well? In your local Facebook group, of the streets. When we're in the bit of lockdown-ish mode, which we had a lot of in Melbourne, there are a few chats of, our kids have painted these rocks with smiley faces on them and they've hid them on such and such street. Go and try to find them. And that made for a delightful little, scavenger hunt.
That's a good point. I'll post in my Hammy Hill Dad's chat.
Yep, they'll love it. They'll love it. Tell them to take their own figurines to put next to the door.
I will.
Philippa?
Yeah, so I read the 50 Quick Wins book this week and actually posted about it on LinkedIn because I was blown away when I saw the little fairy doors on trees. And I've decided I live across the road from a park, so I've decided I'm going to do that in the park across the road. But I'm going to practice in my backyard for the cats first to make sure I get it right. So the cats are going to be have adventures with fairy doors once I work out how to do it, and then I'll do that in the park. So that's my thing.
And there's a lot of cat-friendly videos that has a sub-audience in and of itself of people liking to watch cats doing things.
Yeah, well, I tagged Dean on saying I don't know how to do this, and he tagged a couple of people who've done it, so I'll have to do some follow-up with them. So, but I'm really excited about that. I also want to put some little libraries there, but I'll probably have to talk to the council about that.
Yeah.
But I'll find out if we can get some funding. I'll probably just give them the $300, whatever it is, myself, if it means I can get a little library in there, because I can put some of my books in there because I'm doing a clean out. I'm donating to the local op shop at the moment, but I just thought, it'd be great. It's a part. Look, I live in a new estate, and that people don't really have very big backyards, but there's parks at regular intervals. And so the park is in constant use by families, local people. And I just thought, what a great way to sort of just zhuzh it up a bit and make some talking points for people.
That's fantastic. One observation is that you use the phrase "little library," and I suspect almost everyone on the call knew what that is. I certainly
Yeah.
did. But when I started making videos, because people find interesting what's at the edge of their knowledge, like, too much is not that interesting, and if it's like brand new. So something I found is that I was trying to like discover new things, and I realized there's lots of stuff that I know that that the world doesn't, or different people don't. A video that just says what is a little library would do so well, because most
Yeah.
people haven't heard of that concept, or at least many people haven't. And those that do know about it won't have ever seen yours, because that is new for them. So even if someone is like the local library champion and have seen hundreds of them, they've never seen yours. And specifics is the way to kind of navigate that line of both, like, this topic is unfamiliar to many, so exciting, but it's interesting to those that know a lot, because it's either a case study of it. So yeah, that would do well.
Well, I've done some research because we're a long way from the nearest library. There's like about 20-minute drive or so. So there's one little library about 15 minutes drive, and there's nothing else in the area. So I think it would be a good initiative. And you can put them in your front yard, but I don't know if I want to go down that route. But given I'm literally 10 meters across the road from a park, I thought that would be a good spot. But obviously, I do need to get council approval for that. But I think for that, I thought I'd start with a gorilla fairy door and go from there.
Need less permits for the fairy door, perhaps.
That's right.
Any other thoughts on topics or an audience that you're interested to speak to around the quick wins?
So I have to jump into Philippa, because if you've got your quick wins book, you should also have some get out of jail free cards. So you're welcome to use that instead of your council approval for this weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, excellent. All right, folks, we'll keep moving. Beyond topic and audience, the next thing is to have just one key message per video. It's really easy to want to put in all the stories and all the complexity and all the background. Even in something quite simple, it can, there's many different stories you can tell. That's fine. Make lots of videos. You could make 10 videos just about bollards if you wanted to. We're going to watch a video about bollards in a moment. But, of all of the different things you could talk about, just pick one. And it's easier to make 10 one-minute videos than one longer one in terms of engagement. You can really zero in on that specific topic. And choosing your angle well. Yeah, any thoughts on that, Julian? I know this is something that you've got a good radar for picking the one thing.
Yeah, and by one thing, like, I'm standing in Fed Square, like I'm just surrounded by different interesting bits. So the idea that I'm talking about a bollard, to me, I find quite enjoyable. But that's kind of what that means. Again, we're really well placed, because if there is a local park that ends up popping up from kind of action like this, yeah, spend time and like live in it. Like, let's talk about the trees one day, talk about the benches and seats one day, talk about the access another day, and yeah, have fun with it, but give people a reason to come and watch.
Amazing. And I just took a really terrible screenshot of that video. I'm sorry, but let's
This is one of my favourite inventions, and it might be something you haven't given a lot of thought to. This is a bollard, and what they do is they separate traffic from the things that the engineers want to keep safe, often people and infrastructure. Now, I said traffic deliberately rather than cars, because these things go back hundreds of years, back for people when cruising around in horses and carriages. Now, the form factor varies quite a lot. They could be fixed, they could be removable, they can even be electronic and retractable. But they've all got a similar role, basically stopping cars. And they're so effective, they're actually used in anti-terrorism measures to stop deliberate car rammings. Part of the reason I think these are such a great invention and intervention is they're so simple, easy to install, and they work. A couple of these, there won't be any cars in a bike lane or areas for pedestrian. So if you're a driver, be careful of these, because the bollards always win. And if you're a pedestrian, feel happy in knowing the humble bollard is keeping you safe.
I think this video also really speaks to the point about highlighting something that either you didn't think you wanted to know about, but you do, or that is on the edge of everyone's knowledge. Like, we all know what a bollard is. Like, you walk past them every day, but you perhaps haven't thought about their history or their impact. So really you can create stories about almost anything, particularly in the built environment. So key, yeah, having one key message and then the hook, like the angle that you take and what you say in the first sentence or the title really, really matters in terms of engagement and finding that one angle. So thinking about what's on the title screen, so you don't have to necessarily do that when you're filming, but when you're editing, which we'll get to shortly, like what do people see when they first land on the page, and what the title is creates that curiosity and really builds to keep engaged. So there's lots of great tools, super easy tools out there to create text and videos. We'll talk about that in a moment. But that hook is super interesting. So, here's one example of talking about a policy change in South Australia around mobile phone surveillance in cars, which doesn't sound like a particularly interesting topic that anyone is actually going to click on a news link to read about. But how do you lose your license in 7 days is one of the videos that's really had the highest engagement from this campaign. So it's about checking that angle as well.
I'm afraid 3 people are going to lose their license in the very first week that South Australia started implementing demerit points and fines for mobile phones detected by camera.
So I won't watch the whole video, but I think, again, using the context, like you can absolutely create videos at home in front of your screen if that's what you want to do, and there's ways to make those interesting, but just being out on the street, holding your phone, showing the cars, it does so much of the work for you. And I think that's the really great thing about placemaking, because you're in these places with the people doing the things as well. Yeah, so just things to think about if you're planning ahead for what you're going to be making this weekend. If you've got a project that you're doing and you've got the title and you're thinking about the audience that you might work with, think about what's one message. So you might actually create 4 or 5 videos this weekend and create and sequence how you distribute them rather than trying to fit them all into one. And then think about what's that one hook, what's that one angle that you might want to take with those. All right. I'm going to throw to Julian now just to think about platform and thinking about how you plan to distribute your content once you've created it.
Something we've found in putting together these workshops is we spend a lot of time just talking about what kind of makes a good video, and surprisingly little time talking about some of the questions of structure and even kind of some of the technical side. So to make a video, the tool that you consume it on is the best tool to create it on, and that is your phone. I'm assuming everyone here has a relatively up-to-date smartphone. These days, up-to-date is in the last 5 years, or even longer. They're totally fine. Now, when we talk a lot about social platforms, something that has kind of nicely happened, the world's kind of converged on scrolling vertical video. Now, there are other formats that exist, but YouTube has YouTube Shorts. TikTok is designed in that format, Instagram Reels, and even there, within one click, you're probably watching videos, and even LinkedIn have started to do it. So in one sense, it's made our life easier. You can make videos for any of these platforms, but weirdly, if you make a video, you can probably upload it to all of these platforms, which certainly makes the effort go a long way. I didn't even mention Facebook on that slide, but yeah, that does the same thing as well. So there are some kind of similarities and there are some little differences to them, but realize that 90% of the work will be making the video, and then uploading bit is a small portion, and you kind of get it for free beyond that. So don't feel the need to do all of them, but also don't feel like you've got to make specific videos for any of them.
Amazing. And editing. So editing can be super simple. CapCut, great program. It's a free version. You can also have a paid version for around $20 or $30 a month if you're going to make a few of them. Editing used to be a really, really long, laborious task. It's now very straightforward. We ran a workshop like this with RMIT University a couple of weeks ago. We were in person, so we did an hour out filming, and people shot, edited, and presented their videos back within an hour. So it's really possible to actually do the editing very quickly. Some editing tips, Julian?
Yeah, so there are some great tools that are free. Apple has its own kind of editing software, but CapCut's free and great. You can also edit within the apps, which is really cool, and then download that video and then upload it on the other sites as well. So Instagram has a great inbuilt app editing tool that works really well. So yeah, basically a lot of the kind of editing that I go for is getting rid of the bad takes, like you're allowed to film things multiple times. When I started, I'd film a lot more because I'm a bit more comfortable on camera now, but a joy of video is if you want to do it again, you can do it again. So I'll often go and film, and then I'll have whatever many takes. You just grab the last one because that's by the time you're probably most comfortable, and that's probably much closer to what you need to do. Some of the editing is just a cut where you go from like this bit worked well and I like this take, join them together. Now, a great thing about the modern world of social video is that people are so forgiving. Like where I'm sitting now looks kind of, like laid out right. But the number of videos where the camera's just kind of like this and someone's just talking at, people are so forgiving. The kind of modern world of internet is that you're allowed to have jump cuts and people don't mind. The other things you might do is a voiceover. So if you did want to film, there's two roles of what a voiceover is. One is where you present to camera and then just put stuff over the top. That's called B-roll. Or alternatively is you film what you want, cut it all together, and then press record and just do a voice over it, basically talking to kind of what you can see or what it's about. Now, the two things that I strongly recommend, one is captions, knowing that people are watching this on the tram, on the train, on the toilet, in their office, whatever. So they may not have audio in, headphones in. So it just turns a video from unwatchable to watchable, which can be a really big deal. Plus it's kind of inclusive and yeah, some people just like captions. Now these days, there's an amazing magic button that you can push and it auto generates the captions. Like people hate generative AI, but the one good thing that the robot is good at is turning your text into well-aligned captions that are well-timed. So that has saved me hours of work. And I like to chuck on a title. It's not mandatory, but something catchy on the way in can really grab people much earlier. Those little few things, cut and move footage, put something over the top, B-roll, or do voiceover. Transitions can be when you're joining two things. It's kind of what I described. Some captions and a title. That's it. Like that is all you need to do to make fantastic social video. Or you could learn and become a great editor, but this will get you 99, 95% of the way.
Yeah, and I think to your point about people being forgiving, sometimes it's even better. Like sometimes it's like in a world of AI content, like having the messy bits makes it look real and human, and it's your own story. So don't be worried about that at all. All right, finally on gear and approach, and I know Philippa, you just had a couple of questions about this. Like honestly, the phone is probably 90% of what you need. 99% I'd go as far as saying, but if you want to get fancy, there are some other things to think about. So I'll let you talk to these, Julian.
Yeah, look, it's getting harder and harder to recommend anything other than your phone. Like if you wanted to spend less than $2,000, I would still say phone is the best. Like it's not even like not as good as cameras. It is better than almost all cameras these days because you can do so much more with them. So the way that I generally film is a couple ways. I do have a separate camera, which is one of these kind of Osmo cameras, the one that's on the screen there. So those ones have a magnet, or I've got a little magnet case for them. I can put it on a pole and then just film myself there. But yeah, I've done all of the above of Lucinda, hold this for me, just point it at my face. That works pretty well. I've done put it on a tripod, or these days you can get little like phone stand things that, like just your phone clicks on. So you just need to put one of them on a pole, like on a bench or something, press record, and that's your tripod. So you don't need to think tripod to mean something big. The other version of this is just lean it against the book bag. I film like that as well quite a bit. So look, anything kind of goes. Now, being close, if you're close to your camera, so, it's kind of in like that far from you, you're holding it up. As you've seen, that audio is generally good enough. If you want to get a bit better, there's a few options for audio. You can, there are some of those wireless microphones. So they can be little things that you see clipped on your person. So you'll often see creators holding up something to either their mouth like that, or they clip it on just there. Wireless microphones for mobile phones is kind of what you Google there. These days they're very affordable. So they kind of plug into the bottom, wireless receiver, and you've got one right there. I've been recommending to So that's kind of tripods. Yeah, that works with the DJI or your phone. But do have good audio, do have good audio. And again, these days, there's a button in a lot of the software tools that says get rid of the noise. And it does a decent job of things like background car sounds and rumbling. Bit more for studios, but if you want to kind of look and present well, you can have a soft light. Now, if I turn my camera around, there's a big old light sitting right there because I sometimes film here. But you can make the same thing by just sitting in front of a window. So you can just put your camera there. It's better to have the light coming on your face rather than being behind it. So look, basically almost all of my videos is filmed on just my regular phone, which is an iPhone, with a microphone or without if I'm close enough, and then recorded and cut on CapCut for free. So yeah, I've actually got way more gear that I just don't use much anymore. I'd say 90% of my videos is what you can see on screen. Yeah, a microphone and a phone. That's very much it.
I would say one challenge of perhaps filming in busy city spaces can be audio. If you're not like right up close, it's just there's a lot of background noise that it can be hard to pick up. So yeah, certainly that would be the one thing to think about if you are looking to create more videos. But equally, like if you just want to play around this weekend, like for sure, just go for it. Don't be too worried about it. All right. Camera equipment. I don't know if there's anything you want to highlight there. We can share these afterwards if you want sort of more recommendations of.
Yeah, some people are just nerds about camera gear and just are interested in it. So look, I don't even necessarily recommend a lot of this stuff, but people have asked what have you used, and that's what it is there. I do use a mirrorless camera for my YouTube videos, but yeah, nothing really to add.
Yeah, awesome. That's pretty. We're basically at the end for us. We've got some time for questions, and we would love if you just got 2 seconds to take a photo of that, and I can put the link in the chat as well. That's what I was trying to do before when I accidentally stopped the screen, but it'd be helpful for us from. I'm sure you've worked on grants and need to do grant reporting. We're keen on your feedback, but also from us, we've got a couple of these workshops coming up with a bunch of different groups, including another one with town teams. Would love to know what we can do differently, what you've learned, and how we can improve for next time. So I'll chuck this in the chat as well, if that's easier for you. That would be super great if you wanted to take a minute to provide some feedback. And yeah, but while we're doing that, if there's any questions for Julian or myself, any thoughts, reflections, love to hear it.
Yeah, awesome little session. Thank you for all your information. I guess in relation to the project we have this weekend, the thing that I'm responsible for is kind of like collating all of the quick wins, and I'm mindful of what you said about having like a singular focus. So yeah, wanted to hear your thoughts on maybe like a through line or like an opening sort of sentence to sort of bring together such an eclectic mix of different people doing so many different things, from little popcorn movie sessions to the fairy doors and so much more.
I'll dive in. What I'd recommend is, because you're there anyway filming, is to almost see if you could get a singular video out of each before you make the combined one. And what does that mean? It means getting someone to say to camera, like, what did you make this week and why is it so cool? And they'll go like, oh, I made fairy doors and da 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 da. And then get that as, like, get what they're saying to camera. And then I'd get the B-roll of that. So all of those close-ups of the fairy doors. So that could be a standalone video, but then the one that brings it all together could be something like, these are the 5 coolest projects from Quick Wins Day, or these are the 5 coolest projects to make the city better in one day. And then you got a countdown,
Nice.
5, 4. People love a countdown because something's coming. There's a reason to stay to the end. That first one wasn't very good, but the last one's going to be great. The first one's amazing. The last one's going to be great. That's probably what I would do. But I would recommend to you, Peter, that you just consider also, getting someone, could they also be 5 standalone videos as well?
Cool. Great feedback.
Amazing. Yeah, I was going to say something similar, maybe a list. Any other questions?
Hi, I just have one about filming just for editing. So do you like film and then stop after like each take or after each part, or do you just keep it rolling and then go in and cut and edit to bring it all together? I guess I'm just trying to think of, I'm really slow at editing and I'm trying to think of any sort of way to try and make it a bit quicker.
Mate, I was so bad when I started. I do not think you understand how bad I was, to the point where I decided, this is true, it's easier to learn and get a script perfect that goes for 5 minutes in one take than learning how to cut footage. So
Yeah.
let me hand on heart say I get it. I absolutely get it. So it depends a bit on what type of video you're making. If it is one, because these ones are fairly short these days. They're like that we're making. They're kind of 100 seconds or less. So look, I might even be able to show you an editing timeline of a video that I've made. Can I share a screen, mate?
Yeah, go for it.
So as I said, I use CapCut, which is kind of a free or paid service. So in this video here, this is me talking about the most dangerous roads. Nice catchy little title there. So to answer your question, I would have done this multiple times. If you're looking down the bottom where my cursor is, you can see that this only has 2 cuts in it. So all of my editing, from what I say, is 2 cuts. How did I do that? One, it's just not that long. I talk for 1 minute. What would have been between those 2 cuts, I can probably find out, is just a gap of me taking a breath or checking my notes or something. So my final bit of editing is just one shot that goes into the timeline with the gaps or mistakes removed. So if I said it 3 times, you cut out the 2 that don't work and you've got 1, 2, 3. That's it. And then all I've done is covered it up with some overlay of cars, which I didn't take, this was given to me. And that's the whole video.
Okay.
So to answer your question, if it's a singular script, I would probably say it, keep saying it till you feel comfortable with it and try to get it in 1.5 or 3 goes, then you're doing very little editing.
Great. No, appreciate that. Thank you.
Amazing. We're just at time, so I won't keep you longer, knowing you've got lots of things to get onto being in the evening. But really, thanks to Town Teams for having us and letting us share some of our lessons from this project. And so excited to see the videos that you make, which I hope that you do. Please share them. We'd love to share them on the 100 to 0 channel as well. This isn't just about content created by Julian and others. It's like we're really wanting to promote everyone creating nerdy videos about their neighborhood and cities. And I think that's how change happens, by telling our own stories. So thanks so much.
Thanks very much. See you.
Thank you.